college football recruiting, we have followed star ratings and star rankings and class rankings forever. I love it. It's highly addictive. It's what first drew me to college football. Believe it or not, I was drawn to the recruiting aspect of it almost as much as I was the on-the-field play. So I was talking about some stuff today, and one of you came at me, and you were saying, hey, recruiting rankings are a total grift. They're overrated. They're not what they claim to be. And I said, why is that? Why do you say that? Here's how the person responded. He said, you don't pay attention? I coached high school. I've got some kids in the pros. A player could be ranked 87, but then a certain school shows interest or makes an offer, and the ranking, even in February, no games being played, nothing else changes. It goes from 87 to 95. And the inverse happens. He meant to say inverse, I assume. A player may be 93, but then he signs with a school not paying the grifters, and the score drops immediately. So if you pay to go to the camps, give the free advertising, your score goes up. The high school rating system is one big grift. A lot of anecdotal evidence got presented there. So it's very easy to deliver that. It's very easy to say, hey, I knew of a kid one time who was 2 stars, and he was a first-round draft pick, played 12 years in the league for 3 different teams. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That proves recruiting rankings are a joke. No, it doesn't. Just like if a 5-star doesn't pan out, it also doesn't prove anything other than recruiting rankings aren't infallible. But here's the thing. They never claim to be. You point out those anecdotal examples, and all you prove is the system is imperfect. But it never claimed to be. In fact, a recruiting star ranking never even claimed to be the entire picture on a player. A recruiting ranking is basically a raw talent-based measurement, the best quantifiable thing you can put on a kid at a time. It's the best measure we have in our society of trying to gauge how good a kid is, how he projects. It's not imperfect. You know how I know that? In this building that I do this show out of, it's also the home of 24/7 Sports. So I share a building with those guys. I talk to them about this stuff. They're the last ones to say, yeah, we nail every single recruitment. Take it to the bank. But I'll tell you what they don't do. Hey, quick time out. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, make sure you do. It's free. It doesn't obligate you or sign you up for anything. It just helps us keep the channel free. All right, back to the show. What that guy said. They don't do that. That's not how it works. But you don't have to take my word for it. I would just say, if you want to present evidence to the contrary, don't give me anecdotal examples. Bring me clusters. Like, bring me huge batches of evidence. Because if what you're saying is true and the entire thing's a joke, it'll be pretty easy to see through. The evidence will be pretty easy to find. So, Colin, do me a favor. Throw up the graphic one more time. Throw up the question one more time. My bad, not that one. Keep this one up. Keep this one up. That's fine. So, if, let's just say, for the sake of argument, the whole recruiting process was a sham, and it was just an industry built to prop up certain schools or built to prop up certain camps, and, it was really, really corrupted, like the 7-on-7 scene is viewed as corrupted. Let's say the recruiting industry was really that, and kids were being given 5th stars for everything other than how good they were. Or they were being denied their 4th or 5th star because they didn't play the game, so to speak. Well, if that was the case, if the recruiting star ranking process was really corrupted on the front end, you would know it on the back end. Because while you can sit here, even though you're wrong, you can sit here and have the opinion that, oh, those guys at 24/7 Sports, when they assign those star rankings, they're on the take. That's just a grift. It's built to prop up an industry. It's built to serve one brand at the expense of another, and the kids are just the victims caught in the middle. You can believe that, but I doubt you believe NFL scouts and general managers are caught up in it too. I assume you look at those guys, and while they're not infallible either, you probably look at the NFL draft process and say, now those guys, their job is to get it right, and they got to have the best talent evaluators in the world tasked with getting it right, or they know they're going to lose their job. They're going to get fired. Do you at least think that about the NFL side of it? Okay, so then we can reasonably assume that if there's a lot of corruption on the front end, the high school star rating system, in other words, it'll be exposed eventually. With that in mind, I invite you to look at your screen right now. Keep in mind, 4-star, 5-star, the allegation is it doesn't really mean anything. It's all politics. The last 3 NFL drafts, 65 of 96 first-round picks were former blue chippers, former 4- and 5-star players. Now, here's how wild that is. How wild that is if you go back to the 2020 class, you know, the last full recruiting class before last year's draft, if you were a 5-star recruit, you ended up being 9 times more likely to go first round than a 4-star recruit. If you were a 5-star recruit, you were 85 times more likely to go first round than a 3-star recruit. And that's despite the fact that there are only 32 of them in each class. So either the NFL's in on the grift too, or it's not really a grift. These guys may just halfway know what they're looking at, and they may just want to get it right. I know, because I know who we're talking about. I have the unfair advantage of knowing these dudes personally. And trust me, it would bring me great joy to call them out on air if they were corrupted. But they're not. I guess, unfortunately, they're not. Old Tom Loy, old Cooper Patagna, Andrew Ivins, all the guys out on the West Coast. We got a bunch of them. I don't want to start naming names because I'll forget them. I regret to inform you, they're pretty stand-up dudes. And if they weren't, the back end would expose them, immunity to that all. The NFL draft would expose it. Instead, here's what the NFL draft is telling us. Recruiting rankings have never been more deadly accurate than they are now. That's not to say they're perfect. They'll never be perfect. Here's the other thing you can't account for. This is why you got to take a recruiting ranking for what it is, which is a raw talent-based measurement of a guy. Well, what if I blow up as a sophomore in college? What if my physical development just comes later? I was probably a 2-star coming out of high school, the old J.J. Watt theory. J.J. Watt goes on to be one of the best of all time. He wasn't 5 stars coming out of high school. Did the recruiting industry whiff on him? No, he wasn't J.J. Watt at that point. Or, on the other hand, Denver Harris, former 5-star kid, comes out of high school, doesn't have his head on straight, completely flames out at the college level. Is that an evaluation whiff? No. These guys don't get players on a psychiatric couch. Like, they don't get to do brain scans on them. They don't know what they are ethically or morally. They have no idea what their injury future may be. So a recruiting ranking is basically 3/5, maybe 4/5 of what it's ultimately going to take to pan out in college. And if you take it for that, then you'll see. This piece of paper right here. You brought anecdotal examples, man. I got mountains of evidence to the contrary that says recruiting rankings have never been more accurate. It's never been a more refined process than it is now. That's not as fun. You know, if you want to go conspiratorial, that's probably not going to wet your whistle as much as the alternative, but it's true. It's true.